Mega Mechatronics.
Alright, you and me, intake gasket. Let's take a look at this oil. Try to get under here. That is cool. And now we are coolant slash oil. And now we have some oil. That's not good. Alright, coming under here. Got cap. Throttle brackets. Here's a heater hose crossover. Upper radiator hose is off. So this was in here, like this, and you see right here. This was in there, and there's a little trick I use. Get the camera set up here. Number one is I take a pick tool and work this in between here. So imagine this is installed inside of here, so you can see it. There's a scrape mark right here. So I pry this in here and work it around on at least a couple sides, and then I stick it in again and sort of pull up like that, and then I will spray some lubricant inside of here, so then that starts getting in between this hose, and then grab my trusty bar here, and we can sort of push this off, find a way to leverage it. And you just either use force here and push off on the metal side like that, or you come in and push on here. And so the narration begins. Alright, we are removing the hose clamp for, it looks like on the, it goes from the water pump to the intake, so you have to remove it. It's just below the thermostat housing. Let's get a better view here. It's a little tricky to get in there, so that's why I'm showing this one. So I just got straight pliers, and the way the factory put that clamp in there, it seemed to work out. Unless or that was probably me from replacing the water pump some time ago, I would assume. And then I got the pry bar again using that method. And there's lots of good areas to pry against. But first we want to break that bond between the metal nipple and the rubber hose. it sticks together, and that actually makes it easier to sort of loosen that up, especially rusty ones. Can't really spray any lube in there to get at it, but that was probably enough to loosen it up. And then again, this was actually the leverage was to your advantage here. You can see how the pry bar is curved at just the right angle. And we'll assist it with your finger, it'll pop right out. Sorry, I'm eating some snacks and drinking a frothy homebrew. Alright, well now we're going to spray down the rusty bolts with whatever penetrating lubricant you have to help rusty bolts get loose. There is a wiring harness support bracket. There's probably going to be some variation with some of the details if you have an S10, because this is a Silverado. But there's probably some similarity. Here, definitely spray this EGR tube. It appears to be stainless steel, so it might not be too bad, and then we're letting that soak. So under here, we're going to do the remove the power steering / AC bracket. So I'm pointing out these two. You're going to have to get under your vehicle and loosen these two power steering little brackets that are actually connected to the block and will prevent you from loosening the bracket. And in this view, these bolts are the same, so I'm going to stick these bolts back in to sort of show you the locations. And this one's pretty tricky to get at. I'll stick it in and then grab the flashlight, so you will be able to see it. And you can get around it. The socket pretty much rides against the power steering pulley there. You see it sticking out. And pull that back. So there's one bolt down there, and then two long bolts up here. So you see that boss right there, sticking out sort of. And that shoots in there, I'll push it back through. One there, and then there's one up here. And then there's actually a stud in your block that the bracket sort of sits on. So that's actually really nice. So you can pull that whole assembly back, the whole bracket back, so you can access that last intake bolt. And there's some details I didn't show, but usually disassembly is a lot easier than assembly. So at the end of the video, there's going to be like a half hour of assembly footage at accelerated speeds. So move stuff out of the way, unplug everything. You're going to have to remove the distributor as well. And here I'm loosening it. So make sure all your connectors are off. Your fuel line's back there. So I haven't actually done an intake gasket on a Vortec. So here I am just being cautious about not breaking anything. It does appear to be loose, but I'm looking for anything I may have forgot to disconnect, any plugs that I didn't disconnect, because you don't want to force this off of there. So I'm meeting resistance, and that resistance are those fuel lines. That it's a really tight. Those are hard lines, and they're built to fit. So it is pretty hard. In the back, you can't exactly lift it up. So here I'm jiggling it around and trying to get a feel for where the resistance is. And it's definitely in the back. You can see I'm gently prying on it. And I am prying against the plastic cover, so I'm not really applying that much force because I don't want to crack those covers. So here I'm reaching my hand around, I'm checking, feeling for any anything I forgot, maybe a bracket, but there wasn't any sort of hidden surprises back there. I really just needed to tilt it up and pull it towards me while it's tilted in the front, and then when you pull it towards you, it pulls out of the fuel line tubes. So poking around, we'll get to pulling this out in a few seconds here. Alright, getting a little more confident here. We're going to go for it. Come on. Yeah. And she's out. Spill a little fuel there. And let's go in for a closer look at the evidence here. Do a little root cause analysis, and of course we see damaged O-ring and some cracked stuff here. So these are actually blocked off, but there is some stuff. But the front ones were the ones that are all messed up, actually. I think that was a piece of dirt back there. Okay, now we're going into high speed mode, 6x speed, and I'm just cleaning. Right now I'm getting the big chunks of crud, that oil and dirt mixture. So I knocked off the big stuff. Now I'm going in for the medium stuff with some brake cleaner. I think I went through a can, maybe a can and a half, throughout this whole project. So I'm loosening up and just starting to clean around the areas that could potentially contaminate the sealing surfaces, because I'm actually going to optionally add silicone gasket maker in addition to the formed gasket. So I'm doing a really good job to clean up the crud. Now I'm going in with a die grinder with the plastic biscuits. They're like bristles, plastic bristles. 3M makes these. You can get them. I got a pack of these off of eBay like 8 years ago. I still have a bunch left. So I'm gently going through. I actually turned the air pressure down to maybe 50 psi on the compressor, and I'm going through and cleaning it up. And these are cast iron heads, so you don't have to be too careful. So zip that up, and then I should go back, for a little more cleansing. And I grabbed an old t-shirt I had. There's a t-shirt in there as well. And just started ripping it up. So I went through a lot of sections of that t-shirt. So now we're working on the intake end. And again, I'm knocking off the big chunks of crud, sucking it up with the shop vac. Try not to get it into the intake plenum itself. And on this, the silicone gasket. So you see that front and back area. That's going to be a critical area for you to put silicone. You're going to have to pile that stuff on. It's going to be pretty thick, like a thickness of a big pen, like thicker than a Bic. For sure, the diameter of that sealing surface. And you probably hear the squirrel alert going on in the background. Sorry about that. And I'm going through again with low pressure, and these are aluminium, the intake, so don't go crazy and gouge the crap out of it. I'm just lightly going over it. And now, again, I'm going back through with brake clean. And, again, I'm going to do a really good job to clean in and around the gasketing surfaces. So wherever you're going to put the silicone, make sure that area and some buffer zone around it is clean of anything that could potentially contaminate your sealing system. Alright, let's have some beef. Take a little break, eat some beef jerky. Alright, now I'm going to clean up the intake bolts. And I just put them in a vice grip and just spin them around in the wire brush. So we'll jump into hyperspeed here and finish off the rest. You saw a squirrel? Huh? Yeah? Daddy's no. There's no squirrel out there. She wants me to go look at the squirrel. And do we ever clean bolts? I'm gonna go let her out. Come on. Okay, you probably wonder what I'm doing here. I'm putting RTV on the water jacket areas. I'm doing maybe a medium light thickness. I'm not going too crazy. And this is just insurance for me. This is totally optional. You can just slap the new ones in there. Here's some silicone lube. And it's silicone based, so it should be gasket friendly. And again, this is just another measure of excellence here to ensure a very good sealing. And we can snap these in place with these. There are little tabs that stick down. So these are somewhat directional. I believe they are directional. You can't put the left on the right or right on the left. So we'll just snap these into place. And if you're having trouble snapping it in, there might be the old gasket in the little hole, the locator holes. Alright. Now again, I'm going to apply the silicone on the other side. Actually I'm doing the corners here. So where the head meets the block, on each of those corners, put a glob by hand to ensure you get it in there. Just touch it up. And then up here I'm going to squeeze a lot on those crossover areas. So on the block, not the heads area, you want to put a nice big bead, and that will squeeze out. But you want to make sure, I mean, since it's one big continuous piece, it shouldn't break off into your engine. And if anything, your screen down there will pick it up, or your filter if it gets past your screen. Now, when you're working with something like a transmission, you need to be very careful not to overdo it with your silicone, because you're going to jam up your valves and cause some problems. Alright, and I'm doing the silicone on the other side here. And let's move on into placing the, you could see, I didn't even notice that you could see fuel that leaks on to the odd cylinders over there. But I sit inside the truck, I get a good position, and then when I go in, I have the back down, and I'm actually aiming, visually looking at the fuel lines. I didn't notice it spilling though, but I stick the fuel hard lines into it, and then that's sort of my guide. There. And drop her down. And there's no adjustments here. I start wiggling it around just in case it's not sitting right, but it's actually sitting perfectly. When I start putting the bolts in, everything was lined up. So, good job, engineers. Thank you. Looks like we are in hyperspeed, and we're putting the intake bolts in. So you can see I'm using just a little 1/4 inch ratchet there, and lightly setting those down. I'm not torquing, putting any amount of torque. And when you get to the torque stage, please Google the pattern. It's basically inside to outside crossing over, like you're putting on a tire. And don't quote me on the torque spec. Please go look that stuff up. I think it's like 26 inch-pounds for the first time around, 106 inch-pounds on the second time around, and then 11 foot-pounds on the third time around, or 132 inch-pounds on the third time around. We are doing here. So the point is to slowly add torque and make sure everything's even, going down even, because there's a lot of space in between those intake bolts because of that plastic plenum. I think, yeah, we're doing real time here for the last few bolts. So you just want to do it to the click. If you have a torque wrench, there's no need to go past when it clicks. Well, I'm done with the narration. Enjoy the assembly process, and then there will be a little exit at the end. Thanks. Alright, we're done. You probably noticed I shaved. I flushed it one time with that dirty oil you saw, and then I got the cheapest oil I could find to run again for maybe 1,000 miles, 500 miles, 1,000, and then I'll put my synthetic filter and better oil in it. So let's go take a look at the old gaskets. We can see one just snapped in half, but from handling it. Get this strap stuff out of the way here. So yeah, this is cracked for sure over here. Flip it around to the hot side. Yep. There's actually little notches in there. So, oh, look at that. Just totally deteriorated. There's no plastic backing. Snap it in half. There's no metal backing in these. Yeah, I'm getting my hand all nasty. Well, hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you liked what you saw. Alright, I'm Mega Man. Have a great day. Bye.